Hi, I've got a little canvas board here with nothing on it. Let's paint an abstract painting in shades of blues and reds and pinks. So I'm starting off by mark making using charcoal, just to give some structure. The finished picture won't look anything like this and won't follow these patterns at all, but it's nice, as Clee says, to just take a line for a walk and then you have something as a base layer. So I want my picture to be predominantly blues and whites. So I'm laying down some base colours first of all, and I'm going to put white over the top of these. But I thought if I put a darker colour underneath on the very bottom layer, then I can scratch through the white in a sgraffito effect and create patterns similar to those that I started off with. And I can do that through the paint. So you have to do it when it's still slightly wet. Otherwise you can't scratch through it. I love getting my hands in. Fingers, palm of my hand, they're so nice to paint with. It feels good and it's very good for the well-being. That was a little scraper that I used from my pottery studio, and now I'm sgraffitoing with using the back end of a paintbrush. And you can scratch patterns in, and because I put the darker colours in the background, you can see through the white, and it just makes it an interesting background. It just gives more depth and more interest, I think. Trying to desperately get into a pot of metallic paint. This is metallic blue. I love the metallic paints because of the shine, because I like oil paints, and if you use acrylics they can dry looking quite matte and plain. And I like the effects of the metallic paints. You get that sheen that you don't get with acrylic paints. But I do like the fact that they dry very quickly. They're good for abstract, because if you've got to wait for your oil paint to dry over several days before you can put the next layer in, then that can be mind-numbing. So I do like the immediacy of the acrylic. It can be dry within 5 or 10 minutes sometimes, and it's drying as you work into it. And I also like the fact that they're very forgiving, and if you make a mistake, you can just go straight over it with another colour, another layer. And there you go, I'm going over now with more of the white, thinking maybe reduce down some of that orange. So I'm using large brushes, and if I'm doing an abstract painting, I tend to hold them quite near the back of the brush so that you are looser with your marks. And if you want straight lines, then you can put masking tape on, or a shape, or a stencil. But I like to have a nice free, intuitive approach where you just work into whatever situation you find at each stage. So more sgraffito, and then you can layer up, and you can see these little hints of patterns coming through the upper layers. So now I'm going for a pink. I want the final picture to have blues and pinks and reds. I mean, there's the hints of orange. That orange will sink into the background at a later stage, and the pinks again will probably become quite muted. But I want it to have a big, bold, central swipe of colour. So I'm doing the background first. And then I'm going to get the large brush out at the very end and do some large swipes. But this little tool that's from my pottery studio, it's I can't remember the name of them. They have a name, and it's to use with making a bowl. If you are throwing a pot, you put that inside it, and you can shape the bowl with the curve of the spatula. But it's quite handy for moving paint around. And I bought some large spatulas. You can get them from like the pound shop, the bargain shops, these plastic spatulas that you can use for cleaning windows. Some very large ones that cover a large area. If you're doing a large canvas, you can get a good swipe with them. But this is a small canvas. I think it's about an A4 size. So I'm using fingers and small spatulas. And just use whatever you can find. I found that one in the pottery shed. So, I mean, you could use cooking spatulas. Those are a good size to use. Anything that you can. Spoons, forks, anything out of your cupboards. that you can find that will help you move the paint around in ways that you find interesting. So I'm going for the larger swipes of colour now, and I want that contrast, the red against the dark blue. And I'm going to put a bit of pink in as well. So just building up the different layers until... And I haven't got a particular plan in mind. I just look at it as it goes along, and I stop when it feels right. And sometimes I'll bring something out of the cupboard 6 months, a year, 6 years later, and think that was never ready, it was never finished, which is why it was never framed. And I'll start working on it again with new eyes and a new idea, and then suddenly it clicks and you think it's finished. But sometimes it can take years, months, weeks to finish something, and you know when it's finished, you know when it pleases you. And see, there was nothing at all in me at the beginning that said I must use my fingers to smudge red and blue together. I just thought basic blues with basic pinks and reds on there, and that was the only idea I had in mind. And I got those colours out, and I got the tools out, but the rest of it is purely intuitive. As you go along, you just think, right, I'm going to put this here, and you sort of judge the balance on the page as you go along. And to me at the moment, looking at it, I don't like the big blue swipe going upwards to the right of the red, so I will probably work on that area very soon and perhaps cover it with something else. And I don't like the strong contrast of the red and the blue together. I think they need to blend slightly, so I'll probably blend those areas together. And the bits at the bottom again, I think they need blending more. Yeah, here we go, blending more. And the palm is a lovely way of blending. You can just get the palm in, and you can, it's very soft and malleable, so you can just move it around and get those blended soft edges. And with the finger for smaller ones, you can do the same thing. So I've put a bit of ink on there. I've wet the blue a bit more, and I'm now trying to smudge it a bit because some of those edges were very harsh and they just dominated the picture completely. So smooth it out a bit more, and to me that seems better now. To you, I don't know, you might think, what's this mess you're doing, Kathy? What are we doing here at the age of 60, nearly 62 in 2 days? What are we doing here? Making a mess, using our fingers to paint. But the whole process for me is about well-being and that enjoyment of time. We only have a certain amount of time on this world each. We never know how long it's going to be. And for me, I get such well-being when I do a painting or when I make pottery. And you immerse yourself in the whole process of making. And I'm just as happy as anything when I'm doing a painting. I'm looking at the colours, I'm thinking about that, the juxtaposition of the colours, the placements, the composition, getting rid of some of the orange now, because orange and red and pink don't really blend together very well, but it's nice to have that contrast in the background that jars slightly. Otherwise it would just seem too samey. So it's nice to have a hint of something that's not quite the same as everything else going on in the background. So building up a bit more. But the process of making is the important thing, the journey from start to finish, and getting your hands in there, getting your thoughts in there. And the whole process of making a painting is probably as important as the end result to me. I mean, I can look at a painting and put it on a wall, and I can not just think about the colours and the placement of the colours. I think about the whole process of the making of it and how it felt good, to make the actual painting. And to me, it represents well-being and a particular state of mind. Sometimes it can be an angry painting, sometimes it can be a calming painting. And you'd think with all this red and contrasting blue that this would be an angry painting, but it isn't. To me, there are hints of florals there. To me, it's soothing. I find this soothing. And just this building up of layers and getting my hands in. It's like grounding. when you put your feet in the soil and you feel the grass and the soil. It's a bit like grounding. It's like getting your hands in it that feels good. I'm now shaking it to try and make it run in a particular direction. Now you can do that by shaking and tilting, or you can use a spray and just spray it in a particular direction. So now that I've built up the background, I'm moving to a bigger brush, and I could do with a few swipes. I want some large demonstrative swipes of colour to draw the eye, so that there's a sort of dreamy, soft background, but going to have a big swipe of colour in the middle, just to make a statement, because it just feels like that's what it needs. And that's very hard to explain. When people intuitively paint, especially with abstracts, you just feel when something's right. You feel when something should be done. And to me, it feels right to do a big swipe of very strong, contrasting, standout colour. So I'm priming it a bit with purple first of all, just to add a little bit of purple on there. So it's not just one colour, it's going to have a couple of interesting elements to it. And then let's see how this turns out. And there we go. Now that's too static at the top. By static I mean it cuts off in too short an angle. It would be nice if it swept a bit. I'd like a nice swoop of a shape, and there's probably a bit too much white there as well, and purple. So yes, I'm making it a bit more ragged, because I don't like perfection, which is good because I don't produce it. But I don't like regularity so much either. I really like irregularity. So I'm making it more irregular. I think we need to go over the white a bit more, and possibly the purple. Yep. So to a lot of people, you'd look at it and think, oh, mess, big mess. But to me, I'm thinking this needs to move over here slightly. That needs to move over there slightly. We need to bring in a cold colour, bring in a hot colour. And to me, it's about that balance until they feel right. And suddenly something, it's like when you listen to a song and there'll be a bit in it where you think, oh yes, that just hits right. And you like that song from then onwards. And it's the same with the painting to me. At some point, it will just feel right. And I'll like it from that point onwards. But up until that point, it doesn't quite sing to me. It doesn't quite hit. And at the moment, that top bit is too stunted. It needs a bigger swoop. But I'm enjoying that, the composition with the colours. It's got this dreamy sort of cloud-like, garden-like aspect to the back of it. And then the big strong woof of colour, if woof is a word. And to me, that helps sing, but it still needs to be a bit higher up, I think. And but thoroughly enjoying the whole process of making, because there's no particular message. It's just an emotional response to colour and shape and composition, and it just feels like the right thing to do. I might pull this canvas out again in a year's time and think, oh no, what it needs is green, and suddenly start going over it in thick green paint or something, and that at the time will feel right. Or I might give it to someone or sell it as it is. So bringing in a little bit more white here to make the background less dominant, so that the section in the middle is the most dominant out of all of them. So a bit of blue. So it's almost like sky colours. It's almost like wanting it to sink into the clouds in the background. And it looks like that's a big thunderstorm cloud with lightning and lava spewing out of it to me. But that isn't a bad thing. That's not an angry situation. That's an exciting situation to me. So it's like calmness in the background, and that juxtaposition of calm and angry, I think it hits it, because we've got the that nature, bubbling and boiling and furious nature, but it doesn't seem like an angry painting. It just seems like there's some power in the middle. It's got a powerful feel to it, as well as calm. But try it. Get your fingers in some paint, a bit like taking your shoes off and feeling the grass. Feel the paint. Put your fingers in paint, put your fingers in clay, and just feel what it's like to immerse yourself in that creative process, that intuitive painting process, where you just keep going until it feels right. And that's what I'm doing here. So there's nothing to say. There's no rule to say you need to do... Hello, Misty. Hello. Yeah. There's nothing to say you need to work on the right-hand bottom side. There's nothing to say you need to add more white. Intuitive painting, it's just intuitive. You just decide as you go along. You look at it. And I'm constantly flicking my eyes over the whole painting, looking for that balance, looking for that juxtaposition, looking for the areas that please me and the ones that don't. And then thinking, right, what can I do to improve it? But here it is. I like it as it is. This is my finished painting.